in a land and time where wealth in the hands of young women brought them danger rather than peace. A young heiress must do whatever it takes to protect herself, her wealth, and her land, including marrying two kings to prevent her kidnapping. The story you're going to watch today is about Eleanor of Aquitaine, whose life was full of extraordinary twists and turns. Let's begin. Eleanor of Aquitaine was born around 1122 in the Grand Duchy of Aquitaine, a region that is known for its wealth, culture, and independence. She was the eldest child of William X, the Duke of Aquitaine, who ruled a territory richer and larger than the Kingdom of France. Eleanor grew up in a sophisticated environment with two of her siblings. She learnt Latin, music, and literature, and developed a keen sense of politics. But something drastic happened and exposed her to the harsh realities of the world she lived in. In 1137, Eleanor's father died unexpectedly, and she inherited the duchy. At just 13 years old, she became the most sought-after bride in Europe because of her inheritance. But her immense wealth also made her a target. How? Without protection from a father, brother, or husband, Eleanor risked being kidnapped and forced into marriage by powerful noblemen who needed a title or money to back their fame. However, before her father died, he placed Eleanor in the care of King Louis VI of France as her guardian, with the request that the king would take care of both the lands and the duchess, and find her a suitable husband. But unknowing to him, King Louis VI had other plans. King Louis has long been interested in claiming the duchy because of how rich it was. So he decided that Louis Jeannot, his second child, who had become heir apparent after his older son died, would marry Eleanor. Without wasting time, he sent young Louis, accompanied by a large retinue, 500 knights, and some noblemen, to Bordeaux to secure the marriage. Eleanor, on the other hand, had no choice. Marriage to Louis, her distant cousin, was safer than being kidnapped. But the agreement had an unusual clause. The clause was that the duchy would remain independent until Eleanor bears a son who would be both King of France and Duke of Aquitaine. Eleanor married Louis in July 1137, and they were enthroned as Duke and Duchess of Aquitaine the same day. The newly wedded couple were preparing to go to Paris when a messenger arrived with the news that King Louis VI had died, and therefore they were now King and Queen of France. On Christmas Day in 1137, Eleanor was crowned Queen of France. But this was the beginning of her downfall. Some members of the court didn't like her because she reminded them of Eleanor's ancestor, Constance of Arles, who married into the court and had a reputation for being indiscreet in both dress and language. Things turned worse for Eleanor years later when Louis fell out with the church. What happened? Well, women, even queens, were not expected to interfere with church or political matters, but the church assumed she was involved in how Louis handled a matter that concerned Eleanor's sister. This assumption led to rumors that suggested she even represented darker powers like sorcery. It didn't get any easier from there. People even suggested that she was having an affair with Henry Plantagenet, Count of Anjou. These rumors died down, but Eleanor was advised that she might be rewarded for her troubles if she had a child. In April 1145, she gave birth to her daughter, Marie. But this didn't change how most people viewed her. Instead, their disdain continued to grow, even to the point that the only person who should have protected her joined in disliking her. Here is how it happened. In 1147, Eleanor accompanied Louis on the Second Crusade. She was not supposed to be there, but she insisted on going, even assembling a group of advisors of ladies and knights from Aquitaine. On the journey, her charisma and leadership shone, but she defied Louis's authority repeatedly. At the same time, Eleanor got close to her uncle, Raymond, who was the Prince of Antioch. This closeness started another rumor. Some even accused her of inappropriate behavior, even though these claims were unproven. All these, plus the failure of the crusade, humiliated Louis and put his marriage under immense strain. Louis and Eleanor tried moving past it, but the rumors and the crusade's failure had a huge impact on their lives. Not only that, Eleanor's inability to produce a male heir also didn't sit well with Louis. They made efforts to fix the marriage, with Eleanor trying for another child. She gave birth to her second daughter in 1150, but this didn't help. By 1152, after 15 years of marriage, Eleanor and Louis had their marriage annulled on the grounds of consanguinity, since they were distant cousins. She was in her late 20s, and custody of the children was awarded to King Louis VII. However, Eleanor regained control of Aquitaine because of that unusual clause. But now her divorce made her vulnerable to abduction once again. With her damaged reputation, she decided to go back to Aquitaine. On her way, she encountered Theobald of Blois, a powerful lord who lay in wait, hoping to kidnap her once she passed through his land. But Eleanor escaped by taking a boat. Geoffrey of Anjou, the powerful noble she was rumored to have had an affair with, waited for her at another route she was supposed to pass. But people Eleanor met along the way warned her of the dangers waiting, so she changed her route once more, continued to travel through boats, and avoided main roads till she arrived at her destination. But the danger was far from over. Once she settled in, desperate for a man's protection, she sent a message to Henry, Duke of Normandy, asking him to come and marry her immediately. He was 11 years her junior and was more closely related to her than Louis was, but she was smart and knew he was in line to be King of England. So, 8 weeks after her annulment, Eleanor married Henry in a very private ceremony at Poitiers Cathedral. She then secretly transferred her lands from Louis to Henry. They also kept the marriage a secret for fear that Louis, who was anxious about the growing power of Henry and the Angevins, would prevent it. When Louis later discovered what Eleanor had done, he was furious and immediately made preparations for war. He also refused to give up the title of Duke of Aquitaine that he had acquired through marriage to Eleanor. In 1153, Henry and Eleanor gave birth to their first son, William, and from then, things began to fall in place for Eleanor. That same year, King Louis VII remarried and reconciled with Henry. King Louis also relinquished the title of Duke of Aquitaine to Henry. And in December 1154, Henry ascended the throne of England and Eleanor became Queen of England. As Queen of England, Eleanor was generously provided for. This made her one of the richest people in the kingdom, earning her the title of Riche Dame de Riche Rey. In 1155, the King and Queen of England gave birth to their second son, Henry, but by 1156, their first son, William, died. Their marriage was good for a while, but it soon went south. King Henry was a chronic cheater, and he fathered numerous illegitimate children, including with women in Eleanor's own household. Her sons, Richard, Geoffrey, Henry, and John, grew up and resented their father's control. So, in 1173, Eleanor encouraged them to rebel against Henry in what became known as the Great Revolt. But the rebellion failed, and Henry acted decisively against Eleanor. He had her arrested and imprisoned, confining her to various castles in England for the next 16 years. During her captivity, Eleanor lived under strict surveillance, unable to govern her lands or see her children freely. There was constant family war during those years. If it wasn't between their sons and rebellious vassals, then it was between each other and with their father. Eleanor's fortunes changed in 1189 when her husband, King Henry II, died. Henry's death ended a tumultuous marriage and Eleanor's long years of imprisonment. Richard became king and released Eleanor, who was 65 years old at that time. He also placed her back in power, and she acted as regent while Richard embarked on the Third Crusade. Eleanor of Aquitaine died in 1204 at the age of 82, an extraordinary lifespan for her time. She spent her final years in a monastery, but remained a towering figure in European history and never allowed herself to be reduced to a mere pawn in the games of kings. If you would like to hear more stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.